Hello there ladies and gentlemen, I'm Paul TX141 Walsh, welcoming you to some all new World of Warships gameplay today on our channel. In this episode we shall be featuring our newly acquired Tier 6 Russian destroyer known as the Ognevoi. We're also sailing alongside our colleague Zaron, who is going to be out in his Tier 6 Russian cruiser, the Bedonyi, or however you pronounce it. Today's gameplay takes place on the domination version of the map Trident, and we're not going to emphasise teamwork here, far from it. Instead, we're going to be taking a look at how we can employ a Russian destroyer such as the Ognevoi in a gunboat destroyer role. As many of you may be aware, or at least in my experience, I have found that Russian destroyers emphasise their guns over the torpedoes. As the Ognevoi has a torpedo range of 4 kilometers if I remember correctly, and that is quite short compared to the torpedo ranges of its American and Japanese counterparts on a tier by tier basis. But for it we have two twin 130mm gun mounts, whereby these guns have a range of 12 kilometers and are highly effective at causing fires with an 8% fire chance, and on the whole can do quite a bit of damage when they hit the target. So as a result we want to harass our opponents, cause them to use up their resources, such as, if it's the case of a destroyer, their damage control repair party, and that applies across all ships technically of all classes, but more importantly their smoke screen and their speed boost. And if we're looking at cruisers and battleships, we want them to use up their resources, such as the damage control repair party, any repairs they may have, and access to reconnaissance items such as the sonar. I believe that is the hydrostatic search, the hydroacoustic search, I'll correct myself there. By doing so we can essentially cause our opponents to draw their attention towards us rather than our bigger ships, i.e. the more heavily armed and armoured cruisers and battleships, and that way we can help our team win the day. So we're going to start off then by making our way just off to the southwestern side of B. Now we want to take B as this is the central point, and whilst our concealment is rather poor, with our detectability range being 7.7 km by sea, we believe that we will have the opportunity at some point to capture B. Now we've already been spotted having dropped some shots onto the Furutaka. In fact we're going to pick up one here and do no actual damage. But also by positioning ourselves close to B, we have the ability to catch any cruisers on the enemy team that charge through B completely off guard. But more on that in a bit. Now more importantly, we have just taken out the engine at Mitsuki. And by firing off our secondary burst very accurately, and the accuracy of the Ognevoi's guns is quite nice in my experience. I cannot remember the dispersion at maximum range, but it is quite low. But by knocking out the engine the first time around on that Mitsuki, we probably caused them to use their damage control repair party, and also deploy a smoke screen. Now with the limited duration of the damage control repair party, it is very likely that when we took out their engine for a second time, they did not have the damage control repair party active anymore, and that means that Mitsuki has lost their engine and also been set on fire for a good period of time, causing a good amount of health bleed. Now the Furutaka we shot at earlier is coming on really strong, and we switched to armour piercing here. They are within 7 kilometers, which is an ideal range to switch to armour piercing to go for broadside citadels on cruisers. And we are going to aim for the citadels, or at least aim for the full broadside and cause maximum possible damage to the Furutaka. So let's begin. Our rear gun is still coming around, but our forward gun fires off 2 shots, we achieve a citadel hit. We pick up 2,750 damage. Now full burst picks up an additional 1,650. We throw in our tertiary burst here. The Furutaka is angling away slightly however, so this is going to not hit very well. In fact we get 2 ricochets at least. We fire in our 4th burst, and this is another good one there broadside. Apologies, that one missed. The 5th one, however, is a good one, and it knocks them out for their remaining 1,000 health. Now we're still sitting here on B, but we've assisted to knock out a very dangerous Tier 5 cruiser. Even in a Tier 6 game, the Furutaka can change the balance of a game very quickly thanks to their massive firepower. Now, sitting off to the side of B still, we switch back to high explosive, as our aggressors from here on in are probably going to be at longer ranges, as we see at Mitsuki here all the way out towards C. Now we tried to drop a couple of shots onto them from our front gun, but it's going to be a difficult shot to land simply because they're quite a distance away, and in fact we just overshot them slightly. We continue to sit behind cover here and we see a Karlsruhe making their way to around C, and we decide to put some shots onto them. Our forward gun is able to hit them, our rear gun is not able to as it is behind a mountain. We put another 2 shots over as well. We're hoping to set them on fire at this distance. We managed to do so, and that means they will most likely now use their damage control repair party to bring that in order, as they start to take additional shots from our teammates over towards C. And as we can see, the only 2 ships over towards C technically on our team are a Cleveland and a Minakaze, so Zaron is currently making his way over there. Now, we decide to make a push for B as we get the feeling that B is empty. but we're soon going to be proven wrong, as we are detected. Now we do not know what by, but we would assume it is an enemy destroyer, most likely a Japanese one, sitting on the edge of B if not within it. As soon as we start capturing, we notice that there is nothing actually in B, it is something on the fringe. It could be that Mizuki from earlier, we just don't know, so we decide to pull away. We start off at 3/4 speed, to give the impression that we are running away completely, but we soon cut our speed down to 1/4. Why are we doing this exactly? Well, we're going to make our opponents think that we are running away from B and going somewhere else, when actually we really want B. Now this means that whatever is sitting near B will now probably change location completely, and now we're going to come around again and try capturing B for a second time. Fingers crossed our opponent has left their position, thinking that we would no longer be coming for B and that we've been warded off. We line up our guns on an enemy Cleveland pushing towards A. They are very low health and on fire, but we're just getting ready in case they need finishing off. Our team managed to do so very nicely. So we come back around, and this time being very careful, taking our time, going at 3/4 speed once again, we're going to see that whoever our aggressor is, whoever our spotter is we should really say, has now left B and we'll be able to cap. So this means we'll be able to take a very large open space on the battlefield, i.e. the cap points, which is probably the hardest one to defend on this map, and we're going to take it from right under the noses of our opponents, such as the Phoenix and the Congo, which are just at the tip of our range. Pardon me. We're moving in now at half speed to make sure we do not overshoot, staying close to the islands as well to provide ourselves with a little bit of cover, making sure that any torpedoes that are fired from ahead of us will not crash into us, either they're trying to be used in an ambushing position, but then we have to consider that we do have a cruiser just off to our left. We continue to capture, and in the meantime we can see the Phoenix and the Congo making their way over towards the western side of the map now, and the Karlsruhe from earlier is making their way towards C. And Zaron and our Minakaze are both trying to hold down C as best as they can. The cap is almost over now, taking a little bit of time, but we need to do what we need to do in order to secure the victory. We can see our team has almost managed to capture C, although the enemy team now is really pressing down in that regard. Our Karlsruhe and our team is trying to launch some torpedoes at the New Mexico, but they have overextended, and we can see that they are being attacked by New Mexico, the Phoenix and the Congo. It is not going to work out for them, although the Congo is actually firing towards C and most likely towards Zaron. So we throw a couple of shots down onto the Congo to try and grab their attention, and we also look at the Karlsruhe, who's making their way directly towards us. Now Zaron has just been knocked out, so we are technically going to take all the attention of the Karlsruhe and whatever else is looking this way. But we have the mobility to dodge their incoming fire, which is of a low muzzle velocity, and do a lot of damage with our high explosive as they make their way towards us. I apologise for the mistakes, it's a very hot day at the moment. I'm quite tired. We continue to drop shells down the Karlsruhe here, making our way away, and we load armour piercing in case the Karlsruhe returns for a broadside, as they are very lightly armoured. Now we're firing directly into them at this point, into their bow, so unfortunately it is very likely we're going to actually pick up any HP damage, although we do knock out one of their secondary guns at that point. We switch back to high explosive, having realised our mistake, and are beginning to head around an island in order to try and close the distance on the Karlsruhe and at the same time avoid their incoming fire, as they have switched shots now to a cruiser just off to our left. As we make our way away, the Karlsruhe is still open to high explosive rounds, and we put some more damage in. And we see some friendly torpedoes making their way in as we achieve a set of hits and set the Karlsruhe on fire. The New Mexico is also making their way towards B, i.e. the enemy New Mexico, as the Karlsruhe begins to cap. Now we decide not to attack the New Mexico, we're going to drop some shells onto them to try and cause a fire, but more importantly we are using the island we are tucking ourselves behind now to get closer to the Karlsruhe and bring in our armour piercing shells once more. We do a little bit of damage to New Mexico, but now we're in perfect range to hit the Karlsruhe, so here goes the armour piercing. They begin to turn broadside to us, and we'll make them turn broadside even faster by coming alongside them and putting some rounds in, and we aim for the waterline, having defended the base 3 times, now 4 times by hitting them. We throw some more shells in, picking up a very nice amount of damage there, 2,150. Aim at the waterline once again, picking up 2 more hits for 1,500. And final shots, Citadel hit, knocking them out of the game. 2 ships eliminated by the usage of armour piercing, and we switch back to high explosive to put some more shots on the enemy New Mexico. B is still in our hands here, and we're drifting towards an enemy destroyer, a Kamikaze R. We know that we have the superior firepower compared to the Kamikaze in a 1-to-1 fight, and they're of low health. And we also have an enemy Nicholas. Now the Nicholas's higher fire rate on their 127mm main guns means that we need to switch focus. We've done a good amount of damage to the kamikaze. We've also baited out a set of torpedoes from them. So we fire off our final shots here, picking up a couple more hits and incapacitating something whilst they've gone blind, i.e. we can no longer see them. And we start to switch our attention towards the enemy Nicholas, who can knock us out with their firepower. We try to drop a couple of shots in, they fell a little bit short, or behind we should say. We fire 2 more in, and we manage to incapacitate their engine and do a good amount of damage. Throw some more shots in here, and this is very likely now they have used their damage control repair party. Now with that done, that means any further damage we cause via incapacitations or fires will not be able to be extinguished or repaired using the consumable, and we knock out their engine once again. In fact, my apologies, we knock out their steering. We also set them on fire here, and they're going to bleed health now as we continue to exchange shots. Although unfortunately we did take a massive high explosive round from the enemy Fuso, much further back on sea. We drop our final barrage in on the Nicholas, and we're becoming a little bit more sporadic in our shots here because we're panicking about the Fuso which seems to be aiming at us, and the fire will knock the Nicholas out, as we pick up what is now going to be our 3rd kill. Here we go. Now with 4 enemy ships remaining, we have to consider there is a kamikaze art on very low health over towards sea. We are still detected by the Fuso, and our friendly Fuso says thank you because we managed to get the Nicholas away from them and knock them out, showing us in a particular team-based role here as we defended our battleship from an enemy destroyer which could have posed a threat with their 5.5km range torpedoes. Now the 2 Fusos, i.e. the one on our team and the one on the enemy team, are going head to head here, and we are not going to get involved because we have a very strong feeling that if we do, either the kamikaze will try to gun us down, or alternatively the enemy Fuso will just aim at us and try to get off a quick burst. So we just decide to head away, let our Fuso take up the flak for a bit. Now in the near future, we may decide to come back around and put some shots into the Fuso just to set them on fire. We should not expect to be able to rush them over open seas with our torpedoes because of the limited range, and even if we did have our smokescreen available and also our speed boost, it would be very difficult. And we did use our smokescreen when going head to head with those 2 destroyers in order to provide us with a little bit of breathing space, as well as our speed boost to try and make their shots less accurate. It is very hard to hit a moving target, it's a lot easier to hit in general a stationary one. And the enemy kamikaze here reappears, so we throw a couple of blind shots into them. They're still in the midst of a smokescreen, and the shots we fired off unfortunately do not hit, although we are now redetected by the enemy Fuso. They're still firing at our friendly Fuso, so we decide to drop some shots into them, although we're at the edge of our range, and unfortunately our friendly Fuso gets knocked out by the enemy one. So we need to make our way away, and we're still being detected. So as we're going to see, the enemy Fuso now turns their guns towards us, and we only need to get hit once most likely by a high explosive round to be knocked out of the game. It is 3 versus 3 from here on, and we dodge the incoming fire from the enemy Fuso right on call, and make our way towards landmass. Now the reason we're doing this is to put ourselves into a corner, at which point we will try to make our opponents think that we're going to be idiotic in our approach and just smash into an island and get stuck. But we'll actually cause them to overshoot their shots, and then we can relocate using our smokescreen, which will be back up in 47 seconds at this point, or approximately. But more on that in a bit. In the meantime, we are noticing that the Congo's health state is rather poor, roughly less than a quarter of their health, and they're being harassed by one of our friendly ships. The kamikaze eye is somewhere in that smokescreen, we would guess, and the Fuso is bearing down on us, so we have visibility or approximate visibility on all of our aggressors. A B is now being captured, so we know it's got to be the kamikaze R. We're making our way towards them. We will of course get spotted by doing so, but we assume that we've got the mobility to move out of the way of the Fuso, who is now heading towards us, so they can only bring a portion of their guns onto target. The Congo here is on fire. We decide to throw some shots in order to try and encourage the kamikaze to shoot at us as we're looking at a different target, not trying to guess where they are, and the kamikaze opens fire right on call. So we try to drop some shots onto them. They manage to hit us with a couple of theirs. We get 3 hits on the enemy Congo, and we drop some good shots down onto the kamikaze, knocking out their engine and knocking out one of their rear guns temporarily. And here we crash into an island, right on call to use our smokescreen to hide us from the incoming fire of the Fuso, who falls a little bit short. In fact, we get straddled by them. Now the kamikaze in engaging us left themselves exposed to fire from our 2 remaining friendly ships, i.e. a cruiser and a battleship, and the Fuso is trying to bear shots down on us, and we used our smokescreen in order to deceive them in thinking we would be stuck on the island and we can just make our way away. Now we will not open fire again until we make our way around the island that we're just gradually progressing around, as we do not want to get hit by one lucky shot. We instead just provide scouting visibility on the remaining battleship. We have A and B in hand, so we do not need to rush to capture C, so we can just take our time here and gradually frustrate the Fuso in letting them know that they will not be able to win the game unless they take a blind shot at us or are able to knock out our friendlies very quickly. But even then we will still have the points advantage and we can make this game last for over 5 minutes if needs be. We make our way away, we have our speed boost back up, although we do not need to use it at this point. And the Fuso is gradually making their way in. We're gradually making our way around the island we're trying to hide behind here. And as we begin to fade behind it, we will open fire on the Fuso to try and get a fire on them. Again, to irritate them and make them use their damage control repair party, as who wants to bleed health right at the end of the game? And here we go. Our initial barrage is away to get some hits, and we fire off our last 2 shots. Watch them go in, and this is beautiful. Fire right on call. Now we know the Fuso will have to use their damage control repair party if they do not want to bleed a lot of health, and as we can see, their health state is not dropping, so they must have used it. I can only imagine what that Fuso is thinking right now. And as we make our way around the island here, we will continue to provide surveillance, and we can see that the Fuso is making their way towards B as they need to do so in order to try and salvage what's left of the match. So we're going to try and rush them down, although the game is coming to the end and we will try to rush them down, so if the game went on for longer, we could bring our torpedoes into play. We activate our speed boost, and even with only 1840 health remaining, we think that we'd be able to rush them and get within range to use our torpedoes, as they're making their way around an island at this point. Our team are continuing to fire at the enemy Fuso, and from looking around it would appear that our teammates are in good standards of health, so unless they provide full broadsides and the Fuso gets multiple citadels, it is very unlikely that we're going to suddenly lose our remaining ships. And we can see that fire has been exchanged here. The Fuso comes out from behind the island, so we decide to switch tact and load high explosive. Get a couple more hits off, just in order to increase our ribbon count, and the game is about to come to an end, and it does. So time to take a look at the post-game stats. Well, that was a rather tough but nonetheless exhilarating match, and with the victory we picked up 277,611 silver credits and 2,973 experience. We can see in terms of our battle performance we picked up 89 target hit ribbons, 8 incapacitations, 3 destroyed, 5 fires were set, 2 citadel hits, 12 base defense and 1 base capture, and our total damage output was 34,478 in the end. Looking at our performance compared to the rest of our team, we can see that our base experience amount of 1,982 was top of the team, earning 605 more than the second place player on our team. We can attribute this due to the variety of the ribbons we picked up throughout the game, whereby we used our overall firepower in order to pick up hit, incapacitation, fire and base defend ribbons on a wide basis, and we also managed to pick up a single base capture, which always boosts our experience tally. Now for the nitty gritty, i.e. our detailed report. We can see from the game, which lasted 16 minutes and 10 seconds, we hit a total of 8 enemy ships, of which we damaged 5 and destroyed 3. We caused a total of 34,478 HP of damage, 30,008 of this going from our main battery, whereby we achieved 91 hits, with 62 hits going from our high explosive shells, dealing 17,425, and the remaining 12,583 being caused by our 29 armour piercing shell hits. What is rather interesting to note here is how only a third of the hits we achieved were with armour piercing, but for the third of hits that were achieved using this shell type, we managed to almost cause the same amount of damage using armour piercing as we did with high explosive, accounting for the remaining 2/3 of shell hits. This just goes to show how, even with destroyers, when using your guns, the need to select the right round for a given situation can maximise your damage output significantly, and if we had not used armour piercing in particular against the Furutaka and also the Karlsruhe, our damage output would not have been this high, most likely. We fired no torpedoes and therefore achieved no torpedo hits, demonstrating how we used our Ognevoi in a purely gunboat role throughout the entire game here. And in terms of our other damage, we dealt 4,470 using fires, whereby we set 5, and this goes to show how we tried to cause the fires which would last a longer period of time by exhausting the damage control repair party consumables on our opponents before setting them on fire again. And finally, in terms of our credits and XP, we can see it with our premium account active, we were able to take away 248,874 silver credits and 2,973 experience for both our ship and commander, who picked up another commander skill point today. In conclusion then, Hopefully today we have demonstrated how a run and gun style of play can prove incredibly effective in destroyers such as the Ognevoi at keeping your opponents guessing as to where you will appear on the battlefield next. Taking today's gameplay as an example, we spent a good portion of our time around the B flag in a domination match, but we made sure to change up our position around the flag, meaning that we could get into closer ranges to deal with the enemy Furitaka and the enemy Car's rule by the usage of our armour piercing rounds at closer ranges to pick up citadel hits, before relocating onto the B flag to eventually capture it by the usage of a feint to make it look as though we were running away from it when we tried to capture it for the first time. But after capturing the B flag, we moved to longer ranges in order to tackle the likes of an enemy Kamikaze R and an enemy Nicholas, two very powerful destroyers at a tier of 5, before gradually frustrating the likes of the enemy Fuso into firing at us, but to no avail. And through all of this we enabled our team to pick up any remaining objectives and at the same time move into advantageous positions to eliminate the likes of the Kamikaze R, which we gradually whittled down to its final health. But that is all I've got time for today. And if you have enjoyed this video, ladies and gentlemen, be sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe for future World of Warships gameplays on my channel. And until next time, take care and fair seas.